Hello everyone and welcome to your review of the full body veins. We are going to start off by looking at the heart, and you can feel free to fill out the labels on your own sheet as we go through. So starting from the superior aspect of the heart here, we can see our superior vena cava coming off of the heart, or rather it is draining into the heart. So here, I know this is in our superficial vein box, but know that the superior vena cava is not a superficial vein. Draining into our superior vena cava will be the right and left brachiocephalic veins. So you can see on either side here in pink, these are the brachiocephalic veins, and I know that there's no label there, but I think it's still important to identify. So I'm just going to draw a little line out here. This is the brachiocephalic vein. Now, just like we talked about with the brachiocephalic trunk, it got its name because we have branches connecting to it that are going to the head and the upper extremity. So the case is similar here. We are going to have draining the head and neck. This is going to be your internal jugular vein. So again, we don't have a label for this, but I'm just going to fill it in. Internal jugular vein, or people usually just call this the IJV. And then extending into the upper extremity, we are going to have your subclavian vein. Subclavian vein. Of course, this one would be our left one. And this illustration here does not give us all of the deep branches of the vein here. So instead, we're just going to draw it in. So like we mentioned in class, our deep veins are always going to parallel our arteries. So our subclavian vein parallels the subclavian artery. And once we pass that first rib, remember it is going to turn into the axillary vein that corresponds to the axillary artery. And then once we pass that inferior border of teres major, it becomes the brachial vein. And from there, similar to our arteries, we are going to have a bifurcation. So this would be my ulnar vein, and on the lateral side I would of course have my radial vein. Okay, all right, so these are our deep veins that we just described. We need to discuss some of our superficial veins. So the first one I'm going to describe is going to be this one found on the lateral aspect of your upper limb. Okay, and it moves all the way in and drains into the axillary vein here. This is going to be your cephalic vein. Okay. And I think I tried to box out what your superficial veins are. I think instead of having one big box, I am just going to put a dotted line, or a dotted box rather, around the superficial veins here. So the other superficial vein that you will find is going to be on the medial aspect of your upper limb, and this is going to be your basilic vein. And again, this is another superficial vein that we are going to find. Now, in between these two, we will have our median cubital vein, and this is the vein that we most commonly draw blood from. And another dotted box around this one. Okay, and last thing I'm going to mention about these superficial veins in the upper limb is that your basilic vein is going to drain into the brachial vein. So I'm just going to add those notes in here in case you missed that while we were discussing that. So drains, basilic vein drains into brachial vein, which is a deep vein, right? And then our cephalic vein is going to drain into the axillary vein. Again, another deep vein. All right, so let's move beyond the head and neck and upper extremity. And now we are going to look inferior to the heart. And we see that there we have our inferior vena cava. So I'm going to try my best to kind of highlight the majority of this inferior vena cava as it descends on down. And our label for this is right over here. And again, I know it's in the superficial vein box, but inferior vena cava is not a superficial vein. So coming off of the inferior vena cava, we have a lot of branches here. So we are going to begin by looking at some of the vessels that are going to drain the spleen and small intestines and large intestines. And before I draw them out on our sheet here, I just want to switch to this illustration here, and this is from Teach Me Anatomy. And here we can see let's start off at the inferior mesenteric outlined in green over here. This is going to drain our distal portion of the colon and the rectum. So you can see these structures connected here by the green vein, our inferior mesenteric vein. This then, if you follow posteriorly to the pancreas here, this is going to then drain into the splenic vein, which is outlined in this magenta color. So splenic vein, of course, is going to drain the spleen, and this vessel then drains into the portal vein, which takes all of this nutrient-rich blood into the liver. The other vessel we see here in red is going to be the superior mesenteric vein that will drain the small intestines and the proximal portion of the colon. And this also drains up into the portal vein. So now let's add this over to our drawing. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can have no confusion take place here. We are going to first draw in or color in our hepatic portal vein, since we see the liver right here. That makes things easy, and I'm just going to highlight this line so it does not get us confused. So this is our hepatic portal vein. Remember, draining into our hepatic portal vein on the closer to the right side of our body is going to be I shouldn't have drawn that quite like that. Okay, let me draw our hepatic portal vein a little further down so this makes sense as far as how we're draining blood. There we go. Okay, so now let's go back to that superior mesenteric vein. Over here, that's draining directly into the hepatic portal vein. So I'm going to draw a line again so we can keep this nice and clear. This is I'm going to abbreviate this superior mesenteric vein. Okay. Now the other vein that drains into our portal vein is going to be this splenic vein. And we'll draw this line out here. Splenic vein. And we had a vein that drained into our splenic vein, and that was our inferior mesenteric vein. Okay, other veins we can see here that are not labeled, but we can add in labels to fix that, are going to be our renal veins and our gonadal veins. So I mentioned this in class to you guys, but notice how our right gonadal vein is going to drain directly into the inferior vena cava. So I'm just going to label this as gonadal, and then gonadal, and then same thing as the artery. So if we have a female, we can call this the ovarian, and if we have a male, we would call this a testicular vein. But notice how on the left side, this gonadal vein is going to drain into the left renal vein. Okay, so I'm just going to put a left gonadal vein here. And of course, this side would be our right. Okay. Okay, now when we get to the lower limb, we are going to see that on the right side of our body here, we are displaying the superficial veins, and on the left side, we are seeing the deep veins. So we're going to focus on the left side and talk about our deep veins first. Our inferior vena cava is going to bifurcate into a right and left common iliac vein, just like we saw the arteries bifurcate. So I'm just going to put CIV for common iliac veins. And then, of course, as you would expect, that is going to divide into internal iliac veins. So IVs there. And the other one will be our external iliac vein. Okay, EIV. Okay, and from there, once we pass that inguinal ligament, it is then going to become your femoral vein. So we can label that here, femoral vein. And once we move posteriorly, in the region of the knee, this becomes our popliteal vein. And then it bifurcates into our anterior tibial vein and our posterior tibial vein. Okay, so now let's take a look at the right side of the body. And of course, just to make sure everybody is clear, we have both superficial and deep veins on both sides of our body. We are just, separating them to make our illustration a bit more clear. So let's draw in the femoral artery here on the right side as well. And the other vein that we see here that is nice and long, moving throughout the medial side of our lower extremity, this is going to be your greater or great saphenous vein. So this is a superficial vein that is going to drain into the femoral vein. So let's add that note here. Drains into femoral vein. Okay. And this is also the vein that they take out in order to do bypass surgery. Next we have our lesser saphenous vein, and that is going to be found coursing closer to the lateral side of our lower extremity, but it will also course posteriorly and drain into the popliteal vein. So this is our lesser, or it's also called the small saphenous vein. And this drains into the popliteal vein. And we're going to put dotted lines because this too is a superficial vein. Okay. So if you have any questions on the placement of these veins or how they course, what they drain into, please feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I will see you in lab.